The crystalline towers of New Valeria stretched toward twin moons, their surfaces reflecting the aurora-like dance of the planet's magnetic fields. Queen Zara Vex stood on her private balcony, her silver-blue skin shimmering in the ethereal light as she watched the Earth. Delegation's ships descend through the atmosphere. Today would change everything for her people, for the galaxy, and perhaps most unexpectedly, for her heart. The marriage contract lay on her desk, its terms clear and cold. One human male, selected by Earth's government, to wed the Valerian queen in exchange for a military alliance that would protect both worlds from the growing darkness beyond the outer rim. Political marriages were nothing new to Zara. She had been preparing for such arrangements since childhood, trained to see love as a luxury queens could not afford. Your Majesty. Chancellor Voss entered with his usual precise steps, his 4 arms carrying various tablets and documents. The Earth delegation has arrived. Ambassador Chun requests an audience before the formal introduction ceremony. Zara turned from the balcony, her long midnight hair flowing like liquid silk. At 28, she had ruled Valeria for 6 years, ever since her parents died in the Nexus War. Those years had hardened her, made her calculate every decision through the lens of her people's survival. Very well, but keep it brief. I want to meet this human and assess what we're working with. The throne room fell silent as the massive doors opened. Ambassador Chun, a dignified woman in her 60s, entered with her retinue. Behind them walked a man who immediately caught Zara's attention, not for his appearance, though he was undeniably handsome with dark hair and intelligent brown eyes, but for the way he moved. There was a controlled grace to his steps, alertness in his posture that spoke of training far beyond diplomatic protocol. Your Majesty. Ambassador Chun bowed respectfully. May I present Marcus Reed, Earth's chosen representative for this historic union. Marcus stepped forward and offered a bow that was perfectly calculated respectful without being subservient, acknowledging her rank while maintaining his own dignity. When he straightened, his eyes met hers directly. Your Majesty, I'm honored by this opportunity to serve both our peoples. His voice was calm, measured, but Zara caught something else beneath it, a depth that suggested layers yet to be discovered. Mr. Reed, I trust you understand the significance of what we're undertaking? I do. This alliance could mean the difference between survival and extinction for both our species. I don't take that responsibility lightly. Zara studied him carefully. Earth's files had described Marcus as a former diplomat with extensive off-world experience, but something about him didn't quite fit that profile. The way his eyes subtly scanned the room, cataloging exits and potential threats. The careful positioning of his feet. The barely perceptible tension in his shoulders that suggested coiled strength. Walk with me, she said suddenly, surprising even herself. Alone, Chancellor Voss's eye stalks twitched with concern, but Zara silenced him with a gesture. She led Marcus through a side corridor to her private garden, where bioluminescent flowers created a soft, romantic glow that she hadn't intended but found herself oddly aware of. Tell me truthfully, she said as they walked among the singing crystal trees. Why did you agree to this arrangement? Most humans would find the prospect of marrying an alien queen ... daunting. Marcus was quiet for a moment, and Zara wondered if she had been too direct. Then he smiled, the first genuine expression she had seen from him. Because I believe in what we could build together. Not just the alliance, but something new. A future where the differences between our species become strengths rather than barriers. Pretty words, Zara said, though she found herself wanting to believe them. But this marriage will be real in every sense. Public ceremonies, shared quarters, the expectation of producing heirs to secure the alliance. Are you prepared for that reality? Are you? Marcus countered gently, and something in his tone made her pause. For the first time in years, Zara felt genuinely seen. not as the untouchable queen of Valeria, not as a political asset, but as a woman facing the same uncertainties he was. "I've been preparing for political marriage my entire life," she said carefully. "But I confess, I hadn't expected ... What? Someone I might actually be able to respect." The ceremony 3 days later was magnificent. Zara wore traditional Valyrian robes that shifted color with her emotions, currently a complex mixture of gold, determination, and deep blue uncertainty. Marcus stood beside her in formal earth attire, adapted with Valyrian ceremonial elements, looking perfectly composed, despite the fact that billions across both worlds were watching Dot as they spoke the ancient binding words. Zara felt the weight of history settling around them. But when Marcus took her hand for the final ritual, his touch was warm and steady, and she caught something in his eyes that made her breath catch. It wasn't duty or resignation. It was hope. The celebration feast lasted until the early hours of the morning. Zara watched Marcus navigate the complex social dynamics of the Valyrian court with impressive skill, showing just enough deference to satisfy the traditionalists while demonstrating enough confidence to earn respect from the younger nobles. He deflected probing questions about Earth with humor, asked intelligent questions about Valyrian culture, and somehow managed to make her laugh during the formal toast, something that hadn't happened at a state function in years. Later, in the privacy of their new shared quarters, the reality of their situation settled between them. The apartment was luxurious, but clearly designed for two people still learning to share space. 2 separate bedrooms connected by a common area, with magnificent views of the capital city. "Well," Marcus said, loosening his formal collar as he looked out at the glittering cityscape, "that went better than I expected. The ceremony or the political minefield afterward?" Zara asked, letting her hair down from its elaborate arrangement. "Both." He turned to face her, and she was struck again by that sense of hidden depths. "Zara, I want you to know I meant what I said in the garden. I'm here to build something real with you, however long that takes." She studied his face in the moonlight streaming through the tall windows. "You're not what I expected either, Marcus Reed. What did you expect? A politician. Someone who would treat this as a beneficial career move and leave me to rule while he enjoyed the perks." She moved to stand beside him at the window. "Instead, I get the feeling there's much more to you than your file suggested." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "There is. But some stories are better told over time, when trust has had a chance to grow." Zara nodded, understanding the wisdom in that. "Then we have time. This alliance is meant to last a lifetime, and beyond, if we do it right." As they said goodnight and retreated to their separate rooms, Zara found herself thinking that perhaps, just perhaps, this arrangement might become something neither of their governments had planned for. Something that could change not just the political landscape, but the very definition of what love could mean between the stars. Outside their windows, the twin moons set over New Valeria, marking the end of one era and the beginning of another. The morning sun cast long shadows through the palace corridors as Marcus made his way to the training grounds. 3 weeks had passed since the wedding ceremony, and he had fallen into a routine that helped him navigate his new life. Early morning exercises, breakfast with Zara when her schedule permitted, then hours spent learning Valyrian customs, language, and political nuances. It was during these quiet morning sessions that he felt most like himself, not the diplomatic husband or the political symbol, but simply Marcus Reed. What he hadn't expected was the audience. "Impressive. Form," came a melodious voice from the observation deck. Marcus looked up to see Lady Kira Thorne, one of Zara's oldest friends and a prominent member of the High Council. Her silver hair caught the light as she descended the steps, moving with the fluid grace that marked Valyrian nobility. "I didn't realize Earth's diplomats were trained in combat techniques." Marcus continued his stretching routine, keeping his voice casual. A hobby. I find exercise helps with stress management. Kira circled him slowly, her pale blue eyes appraising. She was beautiful in the way that Valyrian women were ethereal, almost luminous, but something in her gaze made Marcus's instincts prickle with warning. How fascinating. And here I thought you were just another soft politician that Zara had been forced to accept. Sorry to disappoint you. Oh, you're not disappointing at all. Kira's smile was sharp. In fact, you're becoming quite the topic of conversation among the nobility. Some are saying her queen seems different since the marriage, more relaxed. Some might even say happier. Marcus finished his routine and reached for his water bottle, using the movement to study Kira's expression. I would hope marriage might have that effect. Would you? Kira moved closer, close enough that Marcus could smell the exotic perfume she wore. Tell me, Marcus Reed, what exactly are your intentions toward our queen? The question hung in the air between them like a challenge. Marcus met her gaze steadily. To honor the alliance between our peoples and support Zara in whatever way she needs. How wonderfully diplomatic. Kira's laugh held an edge. But you see, I've known Zara since we were children. I've watched her sacrifice everything for Valeria, her freedom, her dreams, even her heart. I won't stand by and watch some human fortune seeker break what's left of her spirit. Before Marcus could respond, another voice cut through the tension. Lady Thorne. Captain J. Sterling, head of the Queen's personal security, appeared in the doorway. His expression was professionally neutral, but Marcus caught the warning in his eyes. Her Majesty requests your presence in the council chambers. Kira straightened, her demeanor shifting back to courtly politeness. Of course. Until later, Marcus. She glided away, leaving Marcus with the distinct feeling that he had just made his first real enemy on Valeria. Friendly warning, Jace said once they were alone. His Earth accent was a relief after weeks of Valyrian inflections. Lady Thorne has been in love with the Queen since they were teenagers. She's not going to make your life easy. Marcus nodded, filing the information away. Thanks for the heads up. Don't mention it. We humans have to stick together out here. The rest of the day passed in a blur of meetings and ceremonial duties. Marcus was beginning to understand the complex web of Valyrian politics, the ancient houses with their competing interests, the religious factions, the military leaders who still viewed the alliance with Earth as a necessary evil rather than an opportunity. Through it all, Zara moved with elegant authority, but Marcus was learning to read the subtle signs of stress in the way she held her shoulders, the slight tightness around her eyes when dealing with particularly difficult nobles. It was during the evening meal that the first real crisis struck. My queen. High Priest Valdris entered the dining hall with unusual urgency, his ceremonial robes rustling. Forgive the interruption, but there has been an incident. Zara set down her fork carefully. What kind of incident? A food taster for the kitchen staff has fallen ill. Severely ill. The medics suspect poison. The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus felt every eye in the room turn toward him, and he understood immediately the outsider, the unknown quantity, the human who had appeared and changed everything. The suspicion was as thick as fog. Confine the kitchen staff and have the medics run a full analysis, Zara ordered, her voice perfectly controlled. I want to know exactly what happened and how. Already done, Your Majesty. But perhaps ... double quotes Valdris's gaze flickered to Marcus. It would be wise to consider who might benefit from such an attack. Marcus felt anger flash through him, but he kept his expression neutral. If you have something to say, High Priest, perhaps you should say it directly. Very well. Valdris turned to face him fully. 3 weeks ago, everything was stable. Now we have poisoning attempts and whispers of dissent. The timing is ... notable. Enough. Zara's voice cut through the tension like a blade. She stood, her robe shimmering with deep red anger. I will not tolerate baseless accusations against my husband. If you have evidence, present it. If not, remember your place. The confrontation might have escalated, but Captain Sterling appeared at the doorway. Your Majesty, urgent message from the outer system. Long-range sensors have detected movement from the Keth Imperium. Military vessels heading toward our territory. Marcus watched Zara's expression shift from anger to cold calculation. The Keth Imperium, he had read about them in the classified briefings. A militant species that had been testing Valyrian borders for months, looking for signs of weakness. How long until they reach our space? Zara asked. 48 hours, assuming they maintain current course and speed. Zara was quiet for a moment, and Marcus could practically see her mind working through the implications. A potential invasion, internal discord, and now poisoning attempts, all happening just as the alliance with Earth was beginning to solidify. Double the palace guard, she ordered. Alert the fleet commanders and prepare defensive positions. And I want that poison analysis within 6 hours. As the room emptied with officials hurrying to their tasks, Marcus remained behind. Zara stood at the great window, looking out at the city lights below. You're thinking this is connected, he said quietly. Aren't you? She didn't turn around. The Keth wouldn't move unless they thought we were vulnerable. Someone has been feeding them information. Marcus moved to stand beside her. Any idea who? Too many possibilities. That's the problem. Zara's reflection in the window looked tired, older than her years. Marcus, I need to ask you something, and I need complete honesty. Always. Is there anything in your past, anything at all, that could be used against us? Because if there is, I need to know now before it becomes a weapon in someone else's hands. Marcus felt the weight of secrets pressing against his chest. His time with Project Sentinel. The missions that officially never happened. The skills that had kept him alive on a dozen different worlds, but would raise uncomfortable questions about why a diplomat possessed them. There are things, he said carefully, that I've never told anyone. But nothing that would make me a threat to you or Valeria. Zara studied his reflection in the window. But things that others might twist to make me look foolish for trusting you? Possibly, she nodded slowly. Then we'll deal with that when we have to. Right now, I need to focus on keeping my people safe. Later that night, as Marcus lay in his bed, listening to the increased patrol activity outside, his secure communicator chimed softly. A message from Earth, encrypted and urgent. He read it twice, his blood growing colder with each word. Priority alert. Intelligence suggests a Valyrian noble faction planning coup. Your cover may be compromised. Extraction team standing by. Recommend immediate withdrawal. Marcus stared at the screen for a long moment, then quietly deleted the message. Whatever forces were moving against Zara, whatever secrets from his past might soon surface, he had made his choice. He was staying in her own quarters. Zara stood before a holographic display showing troop movements and supply lines, planning defenses for threats both external and internal. But part of her mind kept returning to the conversation with Marcus, to the way he had answered her questions. There were depths to her husband that she was only beginning to understand, and the thought both thrilled and terrified her. Outside, the twin moons set over New Valeria, and in the shadows between the palace towers, figures moved with purpose, carrying secrets that would soon reshape the fate of worlds. The Game of Thrones had begun in earnest, and love unexpected, dangerous, real had become the highest stakes of all. Dawn broke gray and ominous over New Valeria as emergency sirens wailed across the capital. Marcus found Zara in the war room, her silver-blue skin pale with exhaustion, as she studied tactical displays showing the approaching Keth fleet. She hadn't slept, he could tell from the tight lines around her eyes and the way she held herself with forced rigidity. The poison analysis came back, she said without looking up. Zarathian nightshade, Extremely rare, extremely expensive. Whoever did this has significant resources. Marcus moved to stand beside her, noting how the other officers in the room, all Valyrian, maintained careful distance from him. The suspicion was palpable. Any leads on the source? Too many. Zara's finger traced the holographic display, showing their defensive positions. Half the noble houses have access to exotic compounds, and the other half have connections who do. A new alarm chimed, and Captain Sterling rushed in with a communication pad. Your Majesty, urgent transmission from General Tyron Blackfist. The room fell silent. Blackfist was a name whispered in dark corners, a former Valyrian military hero who had turned rebel after disagreeing with the Crown's policies. His forces controlled several outer systems and had been a constant thorn in Zara's side. Put him through, Zara commanded. The holographic display flickered, revealing a scarred Valyrian male with cybernetic implants where his left eye should have been. When he spoke, his voice carried the arrogance of someone who held all the cards. My dear Queen, Blackfist's smile was predatory. I trust you've noticed the Keth approaching your doorstep? Pity about your little food poisoning incident, too. Such unfortunate timing. You're working with the Keth, Zara said, her voice deadly calm. Working with? No, my dear. Using them. You see, when they attack your precious capital and your forces are overwhelmed, the people will finally see that your weak alliance with the humans has made Valeria vulnerable. They'll welcome new leadership. Marcus watched Zara's hands clench into fists, but her voice remained level. And you think you can control an invasion force? I think I can end it quickly once you're no longer queen. Blackfist's gaze shifted to Marcus, and his expression grew contemptuous. But first, let's settle the matter of legitimacy. I challenge your ... husband to ritual combat. When I defeat him, the people will see that humans are as weak as I've claimed, and your rule will crumble. The challenge hung in the air, like a physical weight. Marcus felt every eye in the room turn to him, measuring, judging. He understood the trap perfectly. If he refused, he would look like a coward, undermining both his position and Zara's authority. If he accepted, he would likely die, achieving the same result. The human won't fight, Blackfist continued, his laugh echoing through the chamber. They're diplomats, not warriors. Soft creatures who hide behind. I accept. The words came out of Marcus before he fully realized he was speaking. Zara turned to him with shock, but he kept his eyes on Blackfist's image. Interesting, the general purred. Very well. Traditional rules, single combat. No weapons except what you can carry. 1 hour from now, in the central arena, the people will witness their queen's champion fall. The transmission ended, leaving absolute silence in the war room. Marcus. No. Zara grabbed his arm, her composure finally cracking. Blackfist is a trained killer, a veteran of 100 battles. This is suicide. Maybe. Marcus turned to face her, and for the first time since their marriage, he let her see past the diplomatic mask to the man beneath. But if I don't fight, you lose everything anyway. At least this way, there's a chance. You don't understand, he's enhanced. Military cybernetics, combat stims, reflexes boosted beyond natural limits. He's not just skilled, he's modified to be the perfect warrior. Marcus nodded slowly. Then I guess it's time you knew who you really married. Before Zara could respond, a new voice cut through the tension. Well, this is unexpected. Everyone turned as Lieutenant Sophia Reyes entered the war room, her Earth military uniform crisp, despite having traveled across half the galaxy. Behind her came a figure Marcus had hoped never to see again, Elder Nyx, the ancient Valyrian sage, whose knowledge of old secrets was both legendary and dangerous. Sophia, Marcus said quietly, I told you not to come. And miss the fun? Not a chance. Sophia's grin was sharp as she looked around the room full of suspicious Valyrian faces. Besides, someone needs to keep you from getting yourself killed. Elder Nyx moved forward with the careful steps of someone whose age was measured in centuries. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of ancient authority. Queen Zara, perhaps it is time you learned the truth about your husband. Zara looked between Marcus and the newcomers, confusion and fear warring in her expression. What truth? Marcus Reed was never a diplomat, Sophia said bluntly. He was Project Sentinel's top operative. Enhanced reflexes, tactical genius, trained to survive on any world against any enemy. If anyone can take down Blackfist, it's him. The revelation hit the room like a shockwave. Marcus watched Zara's face cycle through emotions, betrayal, understanding, and something else he couldn't identify. You lied to me, she said softly. I omitted details, Marcus replied. The marriage contract was real. My commitment to the alliance was real. But yes, I'm not who your government thought they were getting. Project Sentinel was shut down, Captain Sterling said, his professional demeanor cracking slightly. The records were sealed. Officially, Sophia confirmed. But Marcus was their greatest success. Enhanced genetics, combat conditioning, psychological warfare training. He survived missions that would have killed entire squads. Elder Nyx stepped forward, her ancient eyes studying Marcus with interest. The old prophecies speak of a warrior from the stars who would stand beside the Silver Queen in her darkest hour. I had wondered if the humans might have sent us exactly what we needed. Prophecies? Zara's voice was sharp. You knew about this? I suspected. The signs were there for those who knew how to read them. The elder turned to Marcus. Show them. Marcus hesitated, then began to remove his diplomatic jacket. Underneath, his shirt revealed the truth. Sophia had spoken muscle definition that came from enhancement rather than just exercise, and barely visible scars that told stories of battles fought in shadow and silence. The combat begins in 30 minutes, he said, meeting Zara's eyes. I know this changes things between us, but right now, my people need their queen to trust her husband, Zara interrupted, stepping forward. She reached out to trace one of the scars on his arm, her touch gentle despite the steel in her voice. Enhanced or not, Blackfist has killed dozens of champions. I won't lose you. You won't, Marcus said with quiet confidence. I've been studying him since we got the intelligence reports. He's strong and fast, but he's arrogant. That's his weakness. The central arena was packed beyond capacity as Marcus entered the combat circle. News of the challenge had spread through the capital like wildfire, and citizens pressed against the barriers to witness this unprecedented moment. Above them, the Keth fleet's approach was visible as dark spots against the morning sky, adding urgency to every heartbeat. Blackfist stood across the circle, his massive frame enhanced with military cybernetics that gleamed under the arena lights. He carried 2 curved blades that hummed with energy, and his modified eye tracked Marcus with predatory precision. Last chance to surrender, human, Blackfist called out. I might even let you live as a servant. Marcus drew the simple combat staff he had chosen. No energy enhancement, no technological advantage, just skilled craftsmanship and balance. Thanks, but I have other plans. The crowd fell silent as the ceremonial gong sounded. For a heartbeat, neither warrior moved. Then Blackfist charged with inhuman speed, his blades carving deadly arcs through the air. Marcus wasn't there. The Project Sentinel training took over, flooding his enhanced nervous system with combat algorithms developed over years of impossible missions. He flowed around Blackfist's attack like water, his staff striking pressure points with surgical precision. The general roared and spun, but Marcus had already moved again. Stand still and die. Blackfist's cybernetic eye glowed as it tried to track his opponent's movements. Poor strategy, Marcus replied calmly, using Blackfist's own momentum to send him stumbling. You rely too much on your enhancements. What happens when you face someone who doesn't fight the way your computers expect? The battle became a deadly dance. Blackfist's raw power and cybernetic speed against Marcus's fluid adaptability and strategic thinking. Sparks flew as energy blades met the reinforced staff, but slowly, inevitably, Marcus began to gain the advantage. In the royal box, Zara watched with her heart hammering against her ribs. This was Marcus, as she had never seen him, not the diplomatic husband or the mysterious man with hidden depths, but a warrior in his element, beautiful and terrible in his efficiency. Yet the end came suddenly. Blackfist, frustrated by his inability to pin down his opponent, overextended himself in a powerful overhead strike. Marcus sidestepped, brought his staff up in a precise arc that shattered the general's wrist, and followed through with a strike that sent Blackfist crashing to the arena floor. The silence stretched for an eternal moment. Then Marcus extended his staff toward the fallen general's throat, his voice carrying clearly across the arena. Yield. Blackfist glared up at him with hatred, but slowly nodded his submission. The crowd erupted in cheers that shook the very foundations of the arena. Later, as the Keth fleet received word of their allies' defeat and began their retreat, Marcus stood on the palace balcony with Zara beside him. The crisis had passed, but he knew everything between them had changed. So, Zara said quietly, my husband is one of Earth's deadliest weapons. Was, Marcus corrected. I left that life behind when I came here. Did you? She turned to face him, and he saw no anger in her expression, only curiosity and something deeper. Because what I saw down there, that wasn't someone who had left anything behind. That was someone who had found his purpose. Marcus considered her words, thinking about the moment in the arena when everything had felt right, when he had fought not for duty or politics, but for something infinitely more precious. You're right, he admitted. I thought I came here to escape who I used to be. But maybe I came here to discover who I was meant to become. Zara stepped closer, her hand finding his. And who is that? Your partner. Your protector. Your equal. He lifted their joined hands to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. If you'll have me. The smile that spread across Zara's face was radiant. Marcus Reed, enhanced warrior and terrible liar. I think I'm falling in love with you. Good, he replied, pulling her into his arms as the twin moons rose over their kingdom. Because I fell for you the moment you asked me to walk with you in the garden. Their kiss sealed more than just their love. It marked the beginning of a partnership that would reshape the galaxy. Behind them, the palace glowed with renewed hope, and among the stars, other worlds would soon learn that the Queen of Valeria and her warrior consort were a force unlike any the universe had ever seen. The story of Marcus and Zara had truly begun, and it would echo through the stars for generations to come.